Okay, today I'm going to cover some different types of stocks. So they're going to be large cap stocks, including some resource names, your typical tech stocks, well, a bit of everything, but really the sort of blue chips that you would typically see on the headlines, as well as some that you probably fly under the radar but are worth a watch. So I'll still start off with the SPY, the QQQs, the Dow, and the Russell because it gives some good context. Now, I covered a lot of it in my last video, and obviously I've been away for 2.5 weeks, so that's my sort of the only video I've done in 2.5 weeks. One thing I said in my last video is I think the markets will go up a little bit more and then come back down because my greater thesis is that we are in a bear market. We will continue to see lower lows, although I do not rule out the possibility that we move higher. This is what the three circles here are. So obviously we closed the high up day. I think we'll probably get to 400 next week, early next week, before rolling over. Now, I did think about this a bit more, and I did even suggest in my last video that we could see 50 basis point rate hike rather than 75, which will probably see the market scream higher. But I still think that after the markets digest this, we're still going to have interest rates pretty high, and they still need to go higher. And for that reason, I think that the hype will be short-lived, and it will probably coincide perfectly, as charts usually do, with a rollover. So by the time, let's say we have a 50 basis point move up, and before then, because I think it's on Wednesday, right? So the markets move up Monday, Tuesday, everything looks good. Then all of a sudden, oh my God, they pivot. If this happens, obviously we'll get to here on the SPY 409, 410. And then we'll probably see some resistance and roll over as everyone starts to say, wait a minute, 50 is still quite a lot. We're still going to do another 50. Maybe it was just for the midterms, It's not really something that the market should be celebrating too much, at least for too long. I don't see just breakout, up we go, new highs. Are you kidding me? We have like black swans everywhere, rate hikes, inflation is still way out of control, and wars, forget it. For me, just no. That's for the SPY, and that's still asking for a 5% move. That can be done quite easily, I guess, especially if the Fed pivots, in air quotes. So I thought about it, and it is actually possible that they do it. It'll be considered political for the midterms. I mean, it's a bit late for that too, because the Democrats are going to get crushed in both houses, I think. But I think we move higher, and then I think we move lower. That's what I'm saying, regardless of what the Fed does, and regardless of the news, earnings, Fed, or whatever. I think the chart always wins. Now, that's for the SPY. Now, the NASDAQ has further to go because a bunch of tech stocks, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Google, Alphabet, whatever you want to call them, they all did pretty bad. I mean, Apple did quite well, at least its stock price did, but I don't even think the earnings were that good. So the NASDAQ has a bit more to do than the SPY, and that will meet its resistance. Now, the Dow Jones is pretty much there, quite impressive. So if we do have a move up in the markets next week and there's a Fed pivot, the Dow will probably break out of this downtrend and meet its next resistance, which I indicate around 34,000, maybe a bit higher. We'll see. And then I think we move lower. I think we move lower. I think we've had a hell of a move up. As usual, everyone gets bullish after this huge move. And I think it's something you should be selling into. But, if you can get a better price for your sell, then so be it. So let's see how Monday and Tuesday pan out. I think we'll go a bit higher, at least we'll test higher. And Wednesday, well, let's just see what they say. Let's see how the market reacts. It will be an increase in interest rates. Let's see if it's 50 instead of 75. And if it is, how crazy does the market get? And does it maybe have a fake out? Everyone, oh my God, this is so good. It's the pivot. And then it sort of just closes low with sort of inverse hammer, and then everyone says, oh my God, wait a minute, and then you've got the story to justify a massive move down. You got to think about these sort of scenarios. You got to think of all the scenarios and basically how you would trade accordingly. So yeah, it's just something I've been thinking about the last 2 days, let's say, or at least today. And then the Russell would probably do the same thing. So move higher, and then if there's a Fed pivot, a big hurrah all the way up here, and then who knows, maybe it just reverses. That's quite a big ask though. So maybe its first resistance around 189, 190, let's say, before it gets to 200. And I think now at this point with stocks and generally for indices, you're getting resistance points every 10 unit increments. It's pretty, I mean, technically speaking, that's where they are. And also psychologically, it's just sort of coincides. Anyway, that's that. That's the stock markets. The yields, I'm not going to cover. I've covered them already, so I'll be very quick. I'll just cover the twos and tens. I think we're going to go up. I think we've sort of retraced a bit. We're going to go higher. I don't know if it's going to be on Monday, Tuesday, but next week. And again, it all depends on the Fed. But for me, the uptrend is certainly not intact. And, if they're going to increase by 15.75, that's still a move up. So I think we're going to go up. Now, normally I would start covering I might as well do the dollar. I'm not going to do the dollar. Same thing as the yields, basically. Just a bit weaker. Who knows? If it breaks this ascending line, we go down to 105. Otherwise, we'll move up. Everything depends on the Fed. Now, that's covered what I consider the base. I will go straight to the large caps. I'm not going to bother with copper, oil, and all that. Let's go straight to the meat of it. Now, in no particular order, I'll start with the big boys first. Let's start with Apple, right? Apple's been bucking the trend, and all the way up here, it really surprised everyone on this big bounce up. I was bearish up here, but I was bearish also lower than that. But I think it surprised everyone how low it went. We've had a nice move up. I mean, look, 7.5%. That's quite impressive. It was looking quite weak the day before, Friday, so Thursday. To me, Apple is one of the strongest stocks out there. I think long term, we have to go lower. If we have a move up early next week, we'll probably get to 164. I think going all the way up to 170 is pretty tough, but you can see where resistance would be. I know why people love Apple, sound balance sheet and all that, but at some point you got to say valuations are pretty damn high. I would not be a buyer. I mean, the amount of good stocks that are destroyed out there, why would you buy Apple? I know some people like to hide out in it, but yeah, it's not for me. Tesla came down. I did indicate that it was a sell when we were up here. We've come back down. Now, obviously, Tesla is related to Twitter, but I think Musk has sold what he needed to buy Twitter. So you could say some of the big selling is done. If we move up, we probably move up to 265, between 265 and 280. And then I'd be, well, I wouldn't even own this stock, and I wouldn't short it either. It's a bit of a cult stock, but I'd be a seller up here if I did have some, at least trim, at least trim if you own anything. Microsoft, that got butchered the other day with bad earnings, I believe. So it's come down quite a bit. Yeah, not the worst buy out of all the stocks out there, but I think valuation wise, I saw a few statistics, so some sort of representation of how historically it's pretty expensive still. I drew these trend lines just now actually, so you can see it's in the middle of no man's land. It's not really a buy, not really a sell. I wouldn't own it, but I think if it came down here, probably a buy, definitely 200. And like I said, it's like $10 increments. So at 220, it's a buy. At 210, it's a buy because it would hit this ascending line. It'd be quite a big buy actually at 210. And then at 200, obviously, psychological plus it's here. And then at 190, it was previous, I think this is the Corona, pre-Corona flush highs. So it's really another one of those stocks that works in $10 increments. Amazon used to be one of the sort of big stocks out there that would just cheerlead the way up. It's been destroyed. I don't know what trend lines I would. Actually, this is a pretty good trend line, although it got broken on the way down. And at 100, obviously, it finds support. Previous support resistance over here. Plus, it's a nice psychological number. We closed just above it, although it was a pretty disastrous day. Although I think in pre-market, it was down like 20% at one point. So look at that sort of opens at the low, just closes at the high. Pretty nice reversal on bad earnings, but still not the best chart, right? So yeah, who knows? We probably fill the gap if the market keeps going up. I don't know what this is doing here. And then basically rolled over to at least test the low. So I'd be a seller on the move up. But yeah, pretty good recovery on Friday. And Amazon, massive. One of the Fang boys down what 50% or something. Pretty formidable move down, to be honest. But it's just the value is a lot better right now. Let's say Google, another one of the big boys that's gotten destroyed. Okay, it's had a bit of a bounce, but still, another one that's come down. Let's just draw some. I love these descending trend lines. They work so well. And that as soon as you break out of it, it becomes, for me, it's probably the most bullish technical pattern you can trade. How much are we down? Yeah, 30, almost 40%. I would sort of buy on the breakout of this. Otherwise, I think they've all got the same problems. Advertisers are just, yeah, they're just not bringing in as much money because it's always the same advertisers, it's always the same audience. The audience is more broke, so it kind of makes sense that they make less money, etc., etc. Inflation is eating into the profits. So not only is there more competition in advertising, but the people, the public, the consumers are actually more and more broke. So it's like eating them from both ends. They're getting squeezed. So these big boys, the parties, it's not over, but it's diminished, right? So those are the big stocks. I might as well finish with Meta, which I bought. I can't believe I don't even like Facebook. Although I have a profile, I just don't like the way they're so politically biased. And actually, just generally, it's kind of a bit too old school now. Although I don't really do social media. Although I should, shouldn't I? But I did join Twitter the other day because of Musk. Well, I joined maybe 3 weeks ago, but in anticipation of Musk. But anyway, Facebook, I think it's sort of a graveyard of social media, and not many people are there except for the parents and grandparents, and generally quite a few people have left. But anyway, who cares about all that? I don't care about news really. It's about the stock price, and it's been absolutely decimated. Now, unlike the other guys, this one's down in the 70%. And I bought it at 101 something. Who cares? It's all the same thing. Basically, on that earnings collapse day, pre-market before it took out 100, I bought it. I don't know where it was, 100.8 or something like that. It's the same thing. It's basically there anyway. Whether the price is 97 or 103, for me, it's the same thing. You're buying around 100. I just thought, and you know what? For me, there's no obvious technical support and resistance. That's not to say there is no support. Support will be created, but from just a quick view here, I can't see any. I just thought, I mean, it's kind of was a buy here. You can see the support it held because of this reason, but it was weak. And I remember watching it then, and then I thought, wow, we're all the way down here. And then on earnings, I mean, I really thought that 122-ish, 120, let's say, I thought that would hold. And then once it drops 20%, was it 20 or 25% from there? I thought, okay, this thing is just one of those stocks that I see a lot of them, I don't want to own it. It's not exactly some fraud going bankrupt, not like these Chinese stocks that just, I don't want to trade those anymore. It's just one of those stocks that I knew would just be trading higher at some point. And I thought, you know what, let me just buy it because this is kind of too obvious. Now, I never ended 100% in one go. It was it's probably 20% of the maximum I would want to put in this stock. So let's say it's 1/5 entrance. So if it goes lower, I would be happy. But if it goes all the way up, and my exit would be either gap fill 120, and by 120 I mean 119, or all the way up here 140. And I will trade that along with the markets. When I say the market's going to go up a little higher and then roll over, I think that'll be the way I trade Meta. Although, I've seen that with things like PayPal, which I owned and traded out of. What am I doing? Yeah. PayPal I owned, what did I own? I think I owned it at 80 or something. And then I sold it at 88. I didn't get the whole range, but it ended up going higher, even with the market being weak. And I think Meta is going to be one of those stocks where even though I'll get my move, it may even go higher. And even if the market goes low, it won't go much lower than where it is. So I think this area buy, and I think quite a few people bought Meta here on this drop. I think it's a good buy. If it goes lower, that's an even better buy. So I hope it goes lower, but I have no problem owning it here. I'll hold it as long as I need to make just a quick trade out of it. Let's say I just feel like even if the market rolls over, it's probably not going to go much lower than 100. But I hope it does. Anyway, those are the sort of big boys. Let me start from the bottom now. Now, Zoom is one I like. I haven't bought it yet. I really should, because it's not going to be much lower than this, in my opinion. Although if the market rolls over, it will. Kind of has to, but total destruction. And it's been kind of weak for a while. Let me just zoom in here. I think this downtrend line will be resistance because by the time we get there, it'll probably coincide with some chop here. So let's say 110, 120 max, maybe just below should be resistance. Would I buy this? Yeah, I would. I would. I don't think it's going bankrupt. I think it's got more money now than it did before the Corona move up. So I think it's overdone. And I'm surprised I haven't bought it yet. I think I've just been watching other things. But I like Zoom. So that's why it's all the way at the bottom. It's actually my number one on watch. Uh, Let me just refresh the chart here. AMD, another good stock, which has been crushed. We're getting to the point where there are almost too many trend lines here. I don't like to overdo it, but you can see why I drew this one here. His previous resistance, we went just a little below. That's fine. It lost this ascending support. Let me get rid of this. This no longer applies. Yeah, I mean, resistance is easy to identify here now anyway. Let's say 70, 73-ish. So, but I wouldn't be a seller really. If I own this, I'd hold this because it can probably move up a lot more, maybe even 100 sort of medium term. AMD, I feel sorry for the people who own it because it's been a good stock, but it's moved up a lot. Look at post-corona. I mean, it's moved up from 28 to 100, whatever. That's a massive move up. So, we're talking about 100% moves. So I think it belongs down here at the same point, at the same time. The descending line can be drawn here. I like AMD though. There are lots of good stocks out there, so I think it'd have to come down a little bit more, and then I would really be enticed into it. But like Nvidia, those two stocks trade very similar. You can see the same sort of chart pattern, same outrageous move up and outrageous move down. Nvidia's had a nicer bounce. But I'm in no hurry for that one. Peloton, well, this is one I heard a convincing argument that this would go bankrupt, so I own it. But you can get some very vicious bounces, and this one looks like it's ready for one. So you could see a nice pop from 8 to 11, I would say here, and then maybe later there, 13-ish. It's just long term. I think it could go bankrupt, this one. So Fedex, not likely to go bankrupt since it's basically owned by the government, I think. This one I would just sell on a gap fill. Yeah, definitely sell on gap fill. So you would prefer to hold it after gap fill, or you would buy here looking for that? No, you sell it. You sell something at least. Nvidia covered PayPal. Another one I like, not politically, because what are they going to do? Charge you 2,500 if they disagree with you with something you said or consider it to be misinformation. I think a lot of people have picked up on that. So a lot of people don't like PayPal. They've closed their accounts. You could have some surprise, terrible earnings, although that'll take time to kick in. But I don't like PayPal. I'd be like Facebook politically. I don't like it, but I don't care if I can make money on it. Then so be it. It's been strong, it's just sort of moved sideways and it hasn't moved up that much given what the market's done. But I do think that it's strong down here at 70. I don't think it's possible to get it at 70 unless the market rolls over like new lows. So I think it's a good buy for this general area and then leave it, maybe buy a little bit down here if we get there, but that probably means the market's flushing. I like PayPal though. I kind of always, it reminds me of Zoom a lot. I don't know, their chart patterns and how much they're destroyed. I don't know, they just sort of remind me of each other. Netflix, that was a good buy down here. I wouldn't be buying it now. It's just, you see, this is this type of stock where a bit like Meta, I feel like Meta, you're buying on really bad earnings. Yeah, it can go a bit lower, but it's probably a good buy because it will end up higher than where it is, filling the gap eventually. So that's kind of reminds me of what Meta is going through. I mean, Netflix has gone through what Meta, I think, is about to go through. So I actually see that's probably why I bought Meta, because when Netflix did this move, I thought, oh yeah, a big name like Netflix down 70% at the time I was looking at it was 70%, just like Meta, just like Meta. That's probably why I bought Meta actually. I just realized subconsciously yeah. So would I buy it now? No. It's a sell, especially I mean if the market goes up, it could probably get here, 330, and then maybe it's time to go low to see if it's strong enough to hold this area. So yeah, and these streaming services, I think what's it gonna do now? Go to advertising. This is one of the competitions to Meta, to Google, to all those social medias, the advertising revenue's down because more competition. Netflix is one of those new competitors, a bit like Snapchat, I think. So Netflix should have owned it back then, and I swear I did think about owning it because I thought it'd be higher, which it's done. Anyway, Teladoc, another one of those. I think it's a Kathy Wood stock, but I think it's another one of those ones that benefited from the Corona days. But it's really weak chart. Hasn't moved up that much off its lows. It's made new lows pretty recently, like this week, last week, let's say. So yeah, if the market goes higher, it might make 40, but otherwise, which is actually quite a decent move if you think about it. But not the kind of stock I'd be too comfortable owning because I don't know enough about it. Could go bankrupt, could it? Don't know. But a nice one to trade for a little pop, which could happen actually. It could go to 40. Now, Intel made a nice, I think they had good earnings, and that has been destroyed for some time. I was watching it for some time, so no wonder it had a nice move up on good news, running into resistance pretty soon. But you know what? It's been destroyed so much. I wouldn't be surprised if it could continue a bit more. So all those poor shareholders of Intel, maybe they can benefit of a bit more follow through. But really, you know, what a slaughter. Although it's not even 70%, but still Intel's just a really good company, so you don't expect such a fast drop. I had my eye on that. I don't know. I just never bought it. I guess. Did I identify the support? Yeah, look at that support there. I didn't write it in, but look at that right on the drop here. Beautiful. eBay. To be honest, don't care about eBay. It's had a nice move down. You can see I think here if you hit this ascending line, I'd buy it. So I'll put a little alert on this one. If it drops down here, I'll probably just put a good till cancel buy. So that's eBay, OSTK. I'm not going to cover that. It's a bit of a special one. Crypto related, DKNG, gambling stock, I think, DraftKings. Yeah, this is a nice one to trade on a bounce. You can see this descending line. Did I draw that well? Too well. Yeah, this is pretty strong when it moves up, but I think it had bad news recently. I think that's what that big red day is. Something I read about it a few days ago. I think I had bad news. But anyway, it doesn't matter about bad news. When you've been destroyed this much, I don't think bad news counts too much, especially if it's in the past. So I think a breakout of this, you could see it quickly propel to 20. So this is a good one for a trade. A bit like that. What is it? Peloton. Those two, I'll just put them together. Yeah, they could pop nicely. You get a nice 20% on that in like 1.5 days. Docusign, another one of those sort of PayPal, Zoom. Look at this. This could break out. Oh my God, this is so coiled in my opinion. Yeah, you could get a nice move from here straight to there. What would that be? 50 to 60 or something. This is good actually. Oh, 40% move really quickly. Yeah, I'm gonna move that one into the sort of day trading. These will be my day trading stocks. But DocuSign, I'm gonna try and you know what, I might just and that's a real company. We use that one at work too, I think. You just sign your documents, nothing special, but still, I'm not gonna go bankrupt tomorrow, not some Chinese fraud. Bad news priced in, totally destroyed. Very nice. Yeah, I might just buy that one actually. Robinhood, not a fan. They sell your order flow. That's how they make their money. Nothing's free. But yeah, actually, that's very strong, isn't it? In moving up with the market, we're at sort of triple top breakout. Where's next resistance? Well, it's $14. And then let's say 16. So this one could move, yeah, 20%. If the market moves high next week and it's closed pretty much in line with the markets on Friday, 3%. It's okay. Yeah, it could go up. Definitely. But I prefer buying things that are down rather than after having moved up several days in a row. Yeah, I'll put it with the day trading stocks, but wouldn't be it'd be my last buy actually. Snapchat, oh my God. I don't know anyone who considers Snapchat a really good social media application. I'm not interested in social media. I don't want to know how it works really. It's probably one of the worst ones. I think most people would agree. Now, I think it had very bad earnings. What was it, minus 30% or something on one day? What was that day? That was crazy. That must have been this day here. When the close to the what's that? 16 down to 10. Horrible, horrible drop from the close on that day. Look at that, 40% basically. Wow. Now, and then it went lower. Actually, no, that was this day, wasn't it? Another 30%. Yeah, destruction. Now, look, we are basically closing the gap here. So it's had a nice move off its low, right? Really good. Anyone who's been in, anyone who held or still holds or who bought, amazing, amazing. Now get out. You know, when it closes the gap here, what are you gonna do? You're gonna keep buying, and I mean, yeah, it could, but that's just it's gambling, in my opinion. I say you close. I say you close. I mean, look, it did close above $10, which is also pretty good. It closed a high day, but there's going to be a lot of resistance here, a lot of trapped buyers in here who want to get out. You know, those people who say, okay, I just want to get out even. Just get me out of this trade. Okay, well, they're going to be able to get out of this trade. And although some of them will think, okay, now I want to make some money, believe me, there'll be those more disciplined people who say, no, I'm really getting out. So you're going to have resistance. The market's going to get resistance soon. Remember, the market's had a hell of a run. Reality is still lingering in the background. I would be getting out now. I would have already been out. So yeah, Snap is not something I'm going to buy. I don't own it. Oh, this one looks very good. Um, yeah, very good in my opinion because this is a Virgin Galactic, Richard Branson stock. Now, it's got a lot of talk of going into bankruptcy, although a lot of his businesses have had that sort of path. He always seems to find a way out and does quite well. This is basically trading at all-time lows, but on top of that, it's coming out quite well. And I just feel like this could make a nice move, although A lot of times it's looked like that and it's just made new lows. I like it. There's something about this that I like. I can't yet explain it. It's just totally obliterated, and I feel like it could make a move to $8. That's 100%. I like this. Okay, first up $5. Next up 550. Yeah, I like it. I like it more than Robinhood. Palantir, don't know anything about it. Destroyed. To be honest, this is just one I like to watch because it's been destroyed like everything else, but I don't know enough about it to buy it. Okay, I think I've covered basically all the ones I'd want to cover from the large caps. MasterCard, no, hasn't come down enough. American Express hasn't come down enough. Nice bounce. Walmart, very nice, impressive. Wouldn't buy it. IBM, very nice. Come back to the descending, has a good dividend. Disney, nice bounce. Not really the kind of stock I'd be looking to buy. General Electric pretty much remains very low and muted. AIG, I don't like to follow that. Twitter, basically priced at where Elon Musk said he'd buy it. So now it's not a buy, not a sell. I mean, normally I would sell this, but it's just Twitter. Elon Musk just bought it. Who knows? Maybe they just keep pumping it because he's going to find ways of making it. I mean, for him buying Twitter, I think it was more of a principled buy. I don't think he wanted to buy it the whole time, but I think it's more a principle of free speech rather than making money out of it. But he'll probably make more money out of it than was taking place. But I wouldn't buy definitely, and I wouldn't sell either if I owned it. I'd trim here. I'd probably sell, I don't know, a quarter. General Motors, it's bounced already. I wouldn't buy it. Uber, I wouldn't touch that. CMT is another one I've been watching for several years. Very strong. I would want it to come down. American Steel, no thank you. Trump's SPAC, that was more of a day trading paradise, and now volumes sort of come down, probably pop a little bit, but now with what's happening with Twitter, it's a catalyst going against it. Telecom, wow, very impressive. Oh my God, this trend line here, where did that come from? Wow, I missed it. Didn't see the alert. That was 3 weeks ago. 1, 2, 3. That was a hell of a buy. Just multi-decade support. Charts work. Ford, wow, actually that's quite interesting. Not that strong, the bounce. It comes lower. That's another one of those multi-decade $4, you just buy the hell out of that. I'll have to watch that one a bit more. Lyft, I don't know. These ones I don't really watch, so I don't know why I'm completing it. Now look, I'm just gonna do one more. You might as well Bed Bath and Beyond. Absolute nightmare. Going bankrupt. Great day trading and swing trading here. Made some money out of this one. Look at that, red days after we've had green market days. Come all the way back down. I think they're doing like dilution after dilution, and basically they're going to go bankrupt. You can make some good day trades out of it, but do not hold. Yes, it's come down a lot. Yes, it's all the way, all these lows, but if something's going bankrupt, you can still lose 100% of your money, so don't bother. CCL, there's the Carnival Cruise. I don't see why they're that bad. I mean, it's a bit like Boeing, which I skipped for SBA. Boeing's also really low, kind of, not going to call it multi-decade, but multi-year lows almost. Don't know if that's justified. And they also make money out of the military industrial complex, and they're loving their wars. So I just feel like Boeing is not exactly, not a buy. You could get it cheaper, but certainly not a sell. It's pretty cheap down here, relatively speaking to other stocks. But Carnival Cruise, also a little tourist transportation related stock, pretty cheap. Pretty cheap. I wouldn't be selling that. I know they've had some bad news and everything, but yeah. Anyway, it's bounced a decent amount. And to finish, AMC, another meme stock, which is more of a day trade, but look, it's hardly bounced. Friday, Thursday, Friday, the markets were really hot, and then you've got AMC closing basically red, unchanged. If the markets roll over, basically AMC I can see coming all the way back down to $1 or $2, and then it's probably worth. That's probably a really nice buy. So I wouldn't buy it yet. I would not buy it yet. Now look, let me finish with Alibaba, and then I will go through to the resource stocks that I really wanted to cover. And I only got about two or three to cover, but I've never covered them before, so I'd like to cover them. Alibaba, I thought it was a buy around here, first tranche. That's the case. This is sending support. To be honest, the markets, if they move low, Alibaba was going to flush. That's what happened. You could buy a second tranche here. Again, keep it low, keep it small. And then I haven't bought any. I want to buy, although still I kind of hesitate because Chinese stocks, it's it's just not the same thing. You never know. The Chinese could just say, okay, we're just gonna cancel the American derivatives of our stocks that we have. That sort of lingers in the back of my head, like that's possible, and it just puts me off. Roku is another one as a kind of Netflix of China. Look at that, destroyed, and I would buy that. Like that's, and it used to be down here in my list. I put it in my own little China list because it's it's a special kind of genre of stocks where I just don't trust them. And I've been burnt in Chinese stocks before. Overall, I've lost money in Chinese stocks. But Alibaba is, I mean, I've lost money in sort of trashy Chinese stocks that kind of go bankrupt. I'm day trading them. This is when I was more of a novice. And, bad day trade becomes a whole, add to it, start losing, then add to it again. It bounces, and then I start basically getting out of it. And I trade quite well out of it, but I lose money. I lost less than I could have because it was good trading, but I lost money. And that's where I really learned to trade my way out of a position. And it kind of helped me. It definitely helped me actually. So I don't really regret it, but a lesson I remember learning from that whole experience was don't trade Chinese stocks. But now I've got things like Alibaba, which are just totally smothered. Look at that. That's basically all-time lows of 60. So if I'm going to buy it, I'm going to buy it now. I mean, a lot of people have been buying here. I mean, a lot of people have been buying all the way down. I think Kevin O'Leary, right? He bought Alibaba at 100. And I remember thinking, yeah, it's a good buy. And then it went up. I thought, yeah, I should have done it. But now he's down almost, 50% from what I thought was a good buy. Ultimately, if the Chinese stocks come all the way back up, sorry, then you'll see Alibaba above 120 very quickly. It could have like in 4 or 5 trading days, and move all the way back up to 120 easily. I can see that happening. But it looks like the Chinese government are sort of, with their what was it, every 5 year Chinese Communist Party meeting or whatever, they reiterated that they're going to emphasize common prosperity, and I think a lot of rich Chinese people are leaving or are looking to leave China, Jack Ma style. That's also coinciding with Bitcoin going up. Like Bitcoin moved up the day after. A lot of people are just leaving China via Bitcoins. And they just want to leave. They made good money. They don't want to lose their money, so that it gets dissipated amongst the Chinese people, just pure communist style. Because the Chinese seem to be sort of focusing on security and stability. They don't want to lose power with all the upheaval in the world, and they don't really care about their stock market that much. So, are they really going to rescue Alibaba and all these stocks that are destroyed already? I don't know. Anyway, having said all that, I'd love to buy Alibaba, especially because it'd be my first tranche at all-time lows, and it's not some fraud. So low 60s, But what happens if the Fed, if the US markets roll over, Alibaba gets all the way to 70 probably, and it starts to roll over too. I just feel like, and that's why I've highlighted it here, it's one I should really be buying. And I think I'd be passing a very good opportunity. So I might at least buy my first tranche very soon. I'll wait for the US markets to roll over after Wednesday, if that's what happens, even if I still think I'll do 50 basis points. And after that, when the markets roll over, I'll look to buy Alibaba. So it's on my hit list. And Roku, maybe small amount. I don't want to lose too much of what's on the sidelines. That's China done. One other little, I never talk about biotech. I'm not interested. I don't know the sector that well, but one of the stocks, these are the stocks I look at for biotech. And here are the ETFs, they're off their lows. CRSP, CRISP Technologies, very good stuff. I've heard good things. Pretty low, come down a lot. Might break out soon of this very tight pennant here. Yeah, just one of them that I'm looking at. Intel is another one. Edit. These ones I've heard good things about, but I don't know anything about them really. So, but this is one of the big boys out of the main the main promising stocks related to biotech. And if they really live up to expectations, they could really just propel much higher. There's a reason it went all the way up here. So anyway, that's biotech. Now, oil, Exxon Mobil, Chevron, new all-time highs. Amazing. The profits, the dividends from oil, which is absolutely incredible. Accidental hitting resistance here. Murphy's, I remember when oil was all the way at like $3, $5, it went negative. Remember those days where you had to pay to get rid of your oil? Just obscene stuff. I remember looking at Murphy's down here, thinking, should I buy? Didn't do it. All the way up here. Could have retired by then. Total regret. Anyway, and I don't own any oil. Do I? I own a natural gas, but well done to everyone with oil. Really good. Petrobras, though, the Brazilian one, and they're having elections right now. It's getting pretty heated. They just blew up a bus in Rio de Janeiro. That's how heated it is. But yeah, let's see who wins. I think regardless of who wins, this is a hell of a stock to own. I've heard a lot of other traders or investors, let's say, who are just like, look, this is great, just really cheap, good dividends, and regardless of who wins, it's probably going to make you money. So this one here is on my hit list. I haven't highlighted it red because that will interfere with the others here, but I should just change the color here. I'm going to own Petrobras, and I'm looking for foreign overseas investments now too. I just feel like a long term, they have better dividends, and I think the dollar will come down. And I think, relatively speaking, the emerging market stocks, the good ones, the ones that are really value plays with dividends, they will just outperform the US ones long term. So I like Petrobras. Now another one, uranium. Always wanted to own Aramco, the Saudi Arabian Cameco. This one came down on and I was on a holiday when it happened. I was so happy to read about it. I wanted to trade it, didn't do it, regret it, but I still think it'll come back down again. And if it does, it might lose this ascending support here. But basically, they merged with some other company. Don't know all about it, but market didn't like it. I think long term it is supposed to make sense, but again, there are way more numerous experts that have commented on this, so don't take my word for it. In fact, I don't have a word because I don't know anything about it really. I was on holiday and haven't read up on it since, but this is basically the best uranium in the Western world. Uranium is the future, right? Nuclear power is the future. I've heard that there isn't really a supply problem. There's more supply of uranium, but there's also a lot of demand coming. And, with resources, it takes time for these things because there's 3 stages to resources. There's discovery, you've got to have a project to go out and find. And then there's the development of the infrastructure. Once you find something, okay, great, now let's build the mine, let's develop the mine. Now, once it's developed, let's produce the uranium, the metal, the zinc, the gold, the silver, the copper, whatever it is you're mining, let's say. So these things don't happen overnight. A bit like oil, a bit like just natural resources in general. And so if I am going to trade uranium, and I am, it's going to be the best of the best, and it's going to be CCJ. I'd probably dabble in some of the mid, these other ones here, which are basically more junior um, versions. But CCJ was basically at 21. Didn't buy it because I was on holiday. Also wanted to digest the news and just understand a bit more. We bounced a bit. I think we could come back low. And if we do, I want to see how the market reacts, because if we come lower, we would technically have broken this ascending line and maybe we flush a bit. And then I'd be looking to buy. Obviously 16 is great support. I would be buying this, and I don't mind going in pretty heavy on just one stock to represent all of uranium. Otherwise, I'd go in pretty hard and leave a little bit for the other ones. But CCJ is another one I'm watching. So CCJ and Petrobras, whatever it's called, the Brazilian one. See, now I'm talking about resources. So that's two resources. That's oil, uranium, and I will finish this long ass podcast, whatever you want to call it, with these three guys. Great little Rio Tinto, Freeport McMoran, and BHP. BHP I bought the other day, along with Meta. I think that was one day apart. I'll start with Rio Tinto. I've forgotten the dividends. I think it's 10% or something, 11%. Or am I getting that completely confused? But Rio Tinto, let me start with BHP actually. BHP, I bought down here. God, I forgot the price. I think it was 47.50 actually. It was off its lows. It was late. It wasn't the best buy, but whatever. It's all the same thing. Down here, basically, I bought it because of support. Now, I still think it's going to break support and come back down to 42. I just wanted to own some, just to get my skin in the game, just so I watch it, so that and again, my first entry is always a week. So I instantly want to lose money. So I think if the market comes down, like, look, it basically had a very weak Friday, whilst the market goes all the way up. So obviously it's weak. If the market starts to collapse, trust me, this will come down. And I can't wait for that to happen. So next buy is around 42, 40, 42.01 or 11. I like those numbers. And then let's see. Maybe if I'm lucky enough, I can get what would be my last buy. I'm thinking around 34. Bam, bam, for an average of around 40, let's say. I think I'm going to go equally weighted on all buys, because I'll also be buying Rio Tinto, which has lost its support here. If you can see, the equivalent of BHP is basically here around $60 in Rio's chart, and Rio is weaker. And I'm thinking we could fill the gap and go to 48, because that's also been weak, right? It was down 3.5% on Friday. What happens if the markets go up a bit and then drop, as I think is going to happen? We come back down here and then ascending support. And you can see they're very similar, right? Very similar. So I'll be buying both. I really want to get strong. I call them multi-metals. These are pure resource, blue chip, large cap stocks. I mean, they make good dividends. They are not going bankrupt. And when they move up for several years in a row. And I think when you've got inflation and basically commodities are going to be doing very well in the next couple of years, these are just no-brainers. Freeport, it's just too high compared to the others. That's why I'm not looking at that one just yet. But these three just remind me of each other. I've forgotten the dividends of all of them, but pretty high, pretty good. So that's it. I say that's it. I forgot to cover crypto in my last video. Crypto, very quickly. It was so hard to read. It's kind of gone sideways. I remember I looked for a breakout here and it did it. And I was expecting more follow through. It didn't. Then I got bearish. Then it held. It's just throwing me from one side to the other. Nothing's happened. Yes, it's moved up because the markets have moved up, and it's true. It looks kind of bullish now. I remember it trades on Saturdays and Sundays, so these 2 days, don't confuse with the Friday, which is here. I think it could move up to 22 with the markets early next week, and if the markets really move up, to that sort of next level that I've identified on the SPY, and even the Dow, it breaks out and goes to the next level. Then we can get to 25,000, which I've been looking for a while, but then I think it rolls over. Along with the markets, just generally, this is not the Bitcoin we know. This is not the Bitcoin from here where it's just crazy. It didn't break down, quite surprising for me down here. But the move up hasn't been colossal. So yeah, I just feel like it could move a little higher, but just if you're at 25,000, sell. And I own a little Hive, the crypto miner. I'll be selling if we get here. I wouldn't be selling at 22. It's not enough for me. I'm looking for a long-term position, long-term trade there. So I'll trim a little bit when we get here in Hive. Otherwise, just hold. Yeah, let's see how things emerge. Next week, basically in 20 minutes for me, it's next week starts. I just think markets will go higher. Let's see what happens on Fed Day. We could get a 50 basis points instead of 75 surprise. And I'm very keen to see how the market reacts to that. I think the move up people expect as a consequence of that kind of announcement, I think that's been priced in. I think that might be what the moves in the market has been about. Probably some insiders bought, and then the rest was just momentum and technical. So I think it'd be really interesting and possible that the market sort of moved down after a 50 basis points announcement. I don't know. It's just something I've thought about. Anyway, unbelievably long video. I apologize. I hope you appreciate. I covered quite a few stocks quite quickly, and I'm just gonna end it straight away. So, yeah, thanks.